Hey everyone, Zoro here, and earlier this week I made the video about which characters should return in Pokemon Journeys, and now this time we're talking about what Pokemon Ash should bring back in Pokemon Journeys. He's had so many different Pokemon over the years, and it's honestly kind of crazy that he hasn't brought any Pokemon except Charizard back since the Sinnoh League. That being said, considering Ash is aiming to be number 1 in this series, and also the fact that his team is nearly full already, personally leads me to believe that he'll be bringing some Pokemon back. I find it really tough to believe that Ash, who will inevitably be the world champion, isn't going to use some of the Pokemon that helped him in key moments of his journey. So this video is going to be a different format. I'm just going to go through all of Ash's Pokemon and simply give them a 0 to 5 rating based on how likely I think they are to return in this series. 0 means they obviously have a 0% chance to return, 1 means they still exist at Oak's lab or somewhere else that we know of, but they probably won't return, 2 means that there's a chance they return, but for one reason or another it's less likely, 3 is basically a toss-up, a 50-50 chance that they return or don't, 4 out of 5 is pretty much a high chance that they return but not a guarantee, and 5 out of 5 means I think they will definitely appear in some capacity during this series. After that's done, I'll tell you which ones I think should return. Alright, we have a lot to cover, so let's go in catching order, starting with Butterfree. Now, Butterfree gets a 0 out of 5 because we're so far removed from it being part of Ash's party at this point that it wouldn't make sense to bring it back. Also, I just feel like making it return at this point would kind of remove the significance of the episode where it left Ash. Pidgeot gets a 1 out of 5. I think it's still more likely than Butterfree, but once again, it's been so long that the writers probably don't care at this point. Bulbasaur though, he gets a 5 out of 5. I think he's definitely gonna appear in the series because other than X and Y, he's shown up in every series of Pokemon and I don't expect that to change here. Plus, he's one of Ash's most iconic Pokemon in general. Charizard's a 2 out of 5. I want to give Charizard the benefit of the doubt because everybody knows about Ash's Charizard, but they might not bring it back in Pokemon Journeys just because they don't want to take the focus off of Leon's Charizard. I also would love Squirtle to come back, but he's a 2 out of 5 also. He gets the same rating as Charizard just because they usually don't give him that much love. Obviously we saw him as a cameo in Sun and Moon, but other than that we really haven't seen Squirtle interact with Ash since AG. It would be cool to see him back, but it might not happen. Kingler's a 1 out of 5. I like Kingler, but he's not that iconic of a Pokemon, and since the anime isn't as fluid with continuity as it used to be, I'm afraid Kingler is probably going to be forgotten in this series. Primeape, 0 out of 5. There was a time where Primeape could have had a chance to return, back during Johto, maybe even during the Battle Frontier, but the fact of the matter is, Ash only had Primeape for 4 episodes and was only ever used in 2 of them. This storyline is dead in my opinion. Muck is a 4 out of 5. Like Bulbasaur, Ash's Muck has appeared in every series except X and Y, which puts it in prime position for it to return at the very least. It'll probably just be smothering Professor Oak again in a little cameo, but it still counts obviously. Tauros is a 50-50 chance for me, 3 out of 5. If there's an episode where Ash goes back to Oak's lab, then yeah, probably, but if not, then no. Usually what happens is Ash goes back to Oak's and then gets run over by Tauros, and that's about it for their appearance. Lapras is a 0 out of 5, once again dead storyline, plus Ash's Lapras has been released for a while now, and while it did return for a single episode in Johto, I don't expect it to ever return after that. Snorlax is a 2 out of 5 though. It's been a while since we've seen him, so he may come back, but it's unlikely because he isn't really one of Ash's most iconic Pokemon, or one that fans really see and instantly relate to Ash. Now this is one I have a little trouble with because yeah, Heracross is a pretty well-known Pokemon of Ash's, but in general it's not that iconic or significant of a Pokemon overall, so I'm just gonna give it a 2 out of 5. Bayleaf, Totodile, and Quilava all are 3 out of 5 though. I think the fact that these are starters and therefore are some fairly well-known Pokemon gives them a 50-50 shot. Noctowl and Donphan, again 2 out of 5, they're Oak's lab, but they aren't iconic Ash Pokemon or Pokemon in general. As for Swellow though, I feel like it is a fairly well-known Ash Pokemon, but it still gets a 2 out of 5 because of the fact that there are so many other Pokemon that fans have been begging to return that Swellow wouldn't be one the writers have in mind. Sceptile is a pretty hype Ash Pokemon though. I can easily see him bringing it back in Journeys even though it's not really a relevant Pokemon in the games right now. Let's do 3.5 out of 5. And then last for Hoenn is Ash's Corphish, Torkoal, and Glalie. These are more under the radar Pokemon, so I'm gonna give them a 2 out of 5. If you want to count Aipom, or should I say Dawn's Ambipom, I'll give it a slim 1 out of 5. Even if Dawn is to return, even given the fact that Ash lives in Vermilion City, which is where Ambipom is supposed to be, I just don't see it happening. Getting into Diamond and Pearl, this series is overall one of the fan favorites, and there is potential for Sinnoh remakes in the future, so because of that I can honestly see a lot of these Pokemon returning. Staraptor is a 3 out of 5 for that reason, same with Torterra and even Gliscor. Weasel I'm gonna give a little lower, 2.5, because even though it's one of my personal favorites of Ash's, it's another case of a Pokemon that isn't very iconic, I guess. Gibbel is a 2, even lower than that, because while Garchomp is a very popular and well-known Pokemon, I feel like the time for Ash to bring back Gibbel and actually use it on his team has long since passed. Infernape is actually a 4 out of 5 for me though. Like I've said before, this is the ultimate test, the World Championships, and if they're gonna bring back Pokemon, Infernape is a prime candidate. I see no reason why they wouldn't bring him back in Pokemon Journeys, especially if this ends up being Ash's last series. Now it's time to talk about Black and White. I really don't know what to say with this group, even though some of these Pokemon are starters and some had lasting impacts on Ash's Unova team. They're from Black and White, which, like I said in the last video, that series isn't popular at all. I don't see any of Ash's freaking Unova Pokemon returning because of this, but here are my ratings anyway. Unpheasant, 0 out of 5. I mean, this Pokemon literally was sent back to Professor Oak midway through the Black and White series, so if it wasn't a mainstay in its own series, why would it return in a different one? Oshawott already returned, look. Alright, obviously that wasn't Oshawott, but this one is a 2 out of 5, and honestly the other two, Pignite and Snivy, are also 2 out of 5s because they are starters, yes, but pretty much nobody wants them to return over other Pokemon, and I think the writers can see that. Scraggy is a 1 out of 5. It's in the same boat as Gibbel, where it really didn't get much development, but the difference here is that Ash had it for pretty much the entire series and yet never did anything memorable with it. I think it would be cool to return for some development, but it's probably not going to happen. Leavanny, once again, 1 out of 5. It's a pretty forgettable Ash Pokemon, and it's fully evolved. I think it had its time. Palpitoad, 10 out of 10. This is clearly Ash's premier frog-related Pokemon, and a lot of people— okay, shut up, bro. That simply isn't true. 0 out of 5. Not only is it unpopular, but it's just a horrible Pokemon. It never really did anything good on Ash's team. Remember last week when I complained about Tracy being erased from existence by the anime writers? They should totally do that with Palpitoad. Baldor also already came back in Pokemon Journeys episode 26. This was probably just a reference to the Magikarp Jump app, but it's more fun to think about it as Ash's. Plus, where are you gonna find a regular old Baldor in Kanto? Really though, this is another 1 out of 5. And then the last of Ash's Unova Pokemon is Crocodile, and I give him a slight edge over the others with a 3 out of 5 because he's easily Ash's most memorable Pokemon from that series, and I think he's meant to be Ash's Unova ace, so I definitely think, if any, Crocodile would return to represent Ash's Black and White team. Just like Diamond and Pearl though, X and Y was even more popular, so the Pokemon here should get an edge, right? Talonflame is a 2.5. I'm not comfortable saying it's a 50-50 chance to return, but there's definitely potential. I imagine Talonflame in the same light as Ash's Swellow. It's kind of an underrated Ash Pokemon, but I liked it a lot. Hawlucha and Noivern are kind of a package deal to me. I think if one returns, the other has to because they had sort of a nice sibling relationship. I want to say another 2.5 out of 5. Goodra though, that's actually a 3 out of 5. I can easily see an episode where Ash just goes back to the swamplands for some research related thing, and it won't be much, but there can probably be a little conflict that they have to solve. Then last but not least for Kalos, come on, you know Greninja's gotta return this series. I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. That's probably a surprising rating, but to this day, Greninja is still Ash's most popular Pokemon from the modern era, and Greninja itself is the most popular Pokemon of all time. I honestly think it's gonna return in this series. I also personally believe that every Pokemon on Ash's Alola team is gonna be returning in this series as well. Lycanroc, 5 out of 5. I think Thirtese gets returned in Pokemon Journeys because of its appearance on the end screen. Incineroar is also a 5 out of 5. We didn't see much of it after it evolved, and many want to see it back in action. Rowlet is also a 5 out of 5. He's God after all, why wouldn't he come back? Melmetal, 5 out of 5 also. They didn't just randomly make Melmetal Gmax and not release it officially, so I definitely think Ash will be bringing it back and he'll use it in a Gigantamax battle. The only Alola Pokemon of Ash's that may not come back is Naganadel. I still hate that pronunciation. But even then, it's still a solid 3 out of 5 since Ultra Beasts are returning in the Crown Tundra. I can definitely see him coming back to plug the DLC. And now I'm gonna go over 5 specific Pokemon I think should return. Keep in mind, this isn't Pokemon I necessarily want to return or even ones that are likely to return. Instead, these are Pokemon I think should return because for one reason or another, they didn't get as much spotlight as some of Ash's other Pokemon. The first is actually Ash's Noivern, and I guess by extension Hawlucha, but I think he had enough development. Noivern on the other hand had some promises as a Noibat, but when it evolved it barely won any battles. I think it definitely could have been a formidable Pokemon, but it never got enough spotlight because of them focusing on Greninja, and it never really had a signature victory in my opinion either. When speaking of Pokemon that should return, Noivern comes to mind because it really needs to get some love and win an epic battle. Next is definitely Ash's Totodile. I really love that they brought back Ash's Cyndaquil and the fact that it evolved 2 series after it was a mainstay in the series. As much as I absolutely love Totodile the way it is, it would be really cool if Ash brought back another Johto Pokemon and it evolved. While I personally love Totodile more than Crocodile, I think the anime could change that, and who's to say Totodile can't keep his rambunctious and energetic personality after evolving. Torterra is kind of in the same boat as Noivern. Now, as a Turtwig and even a Grotto, this thing was really cool. I loved it, and even when it became a Torterra, it was still awesome. But while other Pokemon on Ash's team had their signature moment like Weasel in the Maylene gym battle or Infernape against Paul, Torterra doesn't have a really memorable one, and he should come back to get something like that. So I'm old enough to remember when Ash got a Phanpy egg in Johto, and it never evolved in that series, but he brought it back for the Battle Frontier, and it got some really awesome development. Another Pokemon that hatched from an egg and didn't evolve in its series is Scraggy, and this may seem like an odd choice, but I honestly think it would be really cool for it to straight up rejoin Ash's team for a little bit. It probably won't happen since Ash already has 2 fighting types, but with its literal headstrong personality, I think it'd be a nice fit in this series and on Ash's team. The last Pokemon that I think should return, that I've personally been saying for a while now, is Gibbel. Ash's Gibbel should return. It definitely was a welcome addition in his Sinnoh roster, and it would make for a great re-addition to his team now. For starters, it could evolve, maybe even twice, which would obviously make for some nice development, but with the fact that since Sun and Moon the anime has been more comedic, Gibbel would fit in perfectly. Another thing that could be hilarious is if Dawn were ever to return and Ash had Gibbel. He could be training or battling with it. We all remember the Draco Meteor gag. Instead of it working, which I think he's learned to control it now, it briefly reverts back to the old Draco Meteor and hits Dawn's Piplup. I don't know, that's definitely way out there, but I think it would be really cool. So yeah, those are my 5. I tried to choose Pokemon that could serve to benefit from returning, ones that deserve more development, because like everyone else, I obviously would love to see Infernape return, I'd love to see Incineroar, and of course Greninja, but those Pokemon among many others really did have a clear start to finish to their arc. Infernape could return, but I absolutely loved the finality of his arc after he and Ash defeated Paul. Now could be a time for them to show off some more obscure Ash Ketchum Pokemon, and while they probably will still go with the popular ones, if any, I would love to see the underdeveloped Pokemon make a return as well. So thanks for watching this video. Make sure to check out the previous one where I went over the characters that I think should return. I had fun making both, so I'd appreciate the support. Feel free to comment what Pokemon of Ash's that you want him to bring back. Make sure to subscribe. I've been rewatching the Pokemon anime from the beginning, and I'm excited to share a video I've been working on that directly correlates to my rewatch. That being said though, I'm gonna get back to work on that, so with all of that out of the way, my name is Zoro, and make sure to stay tuned to my channel as the journey continues.